Hi, Chris Bobrowski here with Concordia University's Occupational Therapy program. Today we're going to talk about the NNT, or the number needed to treat. Now, simply put, this is a measure of how many patients need to be treated with an intervention for the total duration of that intervention to have an intended effect on one person, or where one person met that end prognosis. So we're going to do this by looking at a hypothetical situation of a study here. Now, the study looked at preventing falls in the elderly population based off an implementation of an intervention. So we're going to use some data here. Now, this is the data at the end of the study. So in the intervention group, at the end of the study who were given this treatment, we had 296 individuals who still fell. Then we had 365 individuals who didn't fall at all, who benefited from this intervention, with a total of 661 patients in the intervention group. Now, in the control group, we had 349 individuals who fell. We had 304 individuals who didn't fall, with a total population of 653 in our control group. Now we can use this data here to calculate our NNT. Now, our NNT formula is going to look like this. It's going to be 100 divided by our absolute risk reduction. Now, I'm sure you're wondering, how do I calculate the absolute risk reduction? Well, that's going to be our control event rate minus our experimental event rate. And then we can divide that number by 100 and we'll get our NNT. So let's go ahead and do that. For our control event rate, it's going to look like this. So it's going to be the event of the individuals who fell divided by the total population of that group. So our control is going to look like this. 349 divided by 653. And that's going to give us around 53%. So 53% of individuals who fell in the control group. Now, our experimental event rate is going to look like this. Same thing, same idea. 296 divided by the total population of the experiment, which is 661. And that's going to be around 45%. Now, our difference here will look like 53% to get our absolute risk reduction, minus 45%, it'll be 8%. So what this number is telling us is that the intervention prevented the risk of falls by 8%. So our NNT will look like this. It'll be 100 divided by that 8%. And that's going to be roughly around 12.5. So here is our NNT. So what this number is saying is that we need to treat at least, with this intervention, we need to treat at least 12 patients to have an intended effect of preventing a fall in one patient. Now, we can also look at this a little bit differently. So I'm going to erase this, and we're going to look at kind of a bar graph to kind of describe this data as well. All right, so in our control group, we said around 53% of that event rate was, we had a 53% event rate in our control group of individuals who fell. Okay. Then we had 45% event rate in our experimental group of individuals who fell. So it'll look like that. All right, so with this data, kind of look at it like this. And this is our 45%. So this 45% represents how many people didn't have an effect, or who didn't benefit. This 45% represents individuals who didn't benefit from the implementation of that intervention. So no matter what, you give this intervention to these patients, and you'll still have 45% of individuals who just won't benefit from it, and they'll still fall. Now here, we have our 8% difference. So this is where the individuals who receive this treatment will have a reduced risk of falling by 8%. So this is what our NNT is saying right here. So our NNT is saying that we treat 12 patients will reduce or prevent falls in one person, and that's representing this 8%. And then here we have our 53%, or 53% in our event rate and our control. So then we go all the way to like, this was 100%. We look at this. So here we have 47% of individuals who, say you give this intervention, 40% of individuals they won't have an effect. So they didn't fall, but they just have no effect from this treatment. So I hope this further explains NNT and how to calculate it and apply it with research and data. If you have any questions, please refer to our handouts. It goes over more of the nuances of NNT. Thank you.